1075 The Game Podcasting is sponsored by Modern Exterminating, a family-oriented company. Professional, honest, and dependable pest control solutions. We're your one-stop shop for all pests.
We got a special guest. What better walk?
Oh, good.
And what better walk-up music?
All right.
Well, maybe yesterday was your birthday, but anyway.
Yesterday,
happy birthday, Coach.
Well, we could still celebrate.
Yeah, sure.
Happy birthday, Shane. How are you?
Nope. I am great. It's great to be on with you guys, and thanks for the belated birthday wishes. And before we talk anything Gamecock football, can I just say how great it is to hear your voice back on the radio, Jay? Welcome back. We've missed you. Proud of you. Much respect. And as I told you before, you got this, and we got your back, and things seem back to normal. Spring ball is going great, and Jay Phillips is on the airwaves of 107.5 The Game in Columbia.
I appreciate that, my man. I do. And, yeah, we are getting back to normal. Every day is a little bit better, and I humbly appreciate you saying so. Thank you. Thank you for that. It means a lot. How do you feel, by the way, that you are now inside a year to the Big 5-0? How's life?
I thought we were going to get right into Gamecock football. That was the whole thing here.
Not yet. Not yet. We're going to get all personal now, man. We're down that road.
Yeah, not good. I'll be honest with you. Not good at all. It was a lot better when I was turning 40, and that seemed old, and now I'm a year away from 50. But it is what it is. Feel young. Health is good, knock on wood, and as you guys know, I stay pretty active and work out and keep track. Our Chip Morton, our associate strength coach, kind of keeps track of workouts and comparing them to previous years, and a lot of these workouts that I'm doing, I'm performing better in 2026 than I have in previous years. So like good wine, Jay, I'm getting better with age, I think.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey,
I remember one time a couple years ago, I forget when exactly, we had Luke Day on the program, and I remember talking to you about some things we could discuss off air, and you were like, hey, just ask him, and I forget the drill you were doing. You were like, hey, just ask him who the literal fastest person is doing whatever drill on the whole team and staff was. And lo and behold, it wasn't some 20-year-old, somebody, like free safety or some such. No, it was 40-whatever-year-old Shane Beamer. So you're not lying.
You go.
You're not lying.
Stay active and stay young.
Hey, Coach, quick question, though. When you were 39, were you wigging out about 40? Tell the truth.
I was. I remember my wife when I turned 40. This is how you rate. When I turned 40, my wife put together like a big trip with some friends down to Cabo, and we went down there for about 4 or 5 days to celebrate my 40th. And then here we are now 9 years later, and yesterday I didn't even have anybody in town, Terry. My family was out of town, and didn't even see anybody on my birthday other than the staff. But yes, when I was 39, I was wigging out about 40, and now I'm 49. I'm like, yeah, like 50's old. But that's a year away, hopefully after a great football season and everything else.
Yeah, you'll be fine, and you'll go somewhere cool. You'll be good. You'll have people next year. I can virtually guarantee that.
Yeah.
So that's good. All right, let's do jump into football, and everything is even more transient than ever before in your sport. But this year, obviously for the right reasons, you made some pretty wholesale changes on your offensive staff. My question to start you off is just, I mean, of their reputations, and you hired these men for a reason. But I'd like to know how all of you begin to know each other well before you have to have the kids back for spring ball and things like that. Just how you got to know them, they got to know you, so that you guys are all in a better place once you do have all the kids back.
Yeah, great question. We got all those guys hired and here with the staff in December, so it wasn't like it was postseason. Other than Deion Barnes, I guess everybody was here in December. and we had some time together before we broke for Christmas. So there was time during that period where you're doing recruiting, but you can't travel. It was a dead period, so everything's in-house. So you got time to get around one another. And then once you come back in January, it's the same thing. I mean, it's happening in the office when you're in the building each day. You're traveling on the road recruiting. I was in different states with Randy Clements and Kendall Briles and Dion Barnes. We were in different states recruiting, and I was out on the road with Stan recruiting. So I'm getting to know them, but then you're also in a car with, 2-3 other coaches, and they're getting to know one another. And then I thought, I feel like Kendall's done a great job specifically with the offensive staff of just the dynamic in that offensive staff room and the way those guys have worked together since they got here. And then, and you try and do some things away from the building too. Before we started spring practice, Emily and I, took those guys, the 10 assistant coaches, just went down to Charleston and spent a weekend, the coaches and their wives, and had dinner and had hung out on a rooftop bar on Saturday night, played golf for the people that wanted to play golf, just to get away. And the coaches get to know one another outside the building, but also more than that, the wives too. So it's a good dynamic. It's a really fun group. I like the camaraderie within the staff right now, and that's carried over to the field. And everything that I'm trying to do with the coaches, getting to know one another, we're doing the same thing with the players when they come back in January, because you do have so many new players every single year with freshmen and transfers coming in, that really from January to August, it's, how quickly can we get to know one another and become, close as a football team between now and the start of the season.
Coach Shane Beamer hanging out with us here on the Postgame Show with Jay and Terry here on the Game and the Game Network. Shane, one of the things I always look at when it comes to really, really good head coaches and leadership is I think the best folks are very self-aware, because that's how you evolve and get better, is by self-awareness and kind of being able to look at yourself. And that's one of the great things we talk about on the show all the time, and not behind your back, but we really talk about it, is the idea you're very self-aware. And you always talk about how every year you're trying to get better, and you always look at yourself after a season, what can I do better in 2026? So what is Shane Beamer looking at for himself to do better as Coach Beamer in 2026?
Great question. I mean, those are things, certainly you're thinking about it during the season. You're analyzing all that, outside of the season. Clearly, I didn't do a good enough job last season on or off the field, because the season did not go the way we wanted. So I'm accountable for that as the head coach, and you look at everything that you're doing. So from a head coaching standpoint, it's tweaking a little bit of how we do practice in the springtime. How we've structured spring practice this year is different from previous years. That's a change where I analyzed it and looked and said, this is where we need to be better. It's as a head coach saying, okay, how can I do a better job of developing leadership? And you've heard it, Terry, any program, any team, whether it be the Baltimore Ravens or a college football team, they talk about the great teams. They want to have great leadership, but they're very much player-led. The Baltimore Ravens with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis back in the day, and the team we had in 2024, we had great leaders on that team. And I'm not saying that we didn't last season in 2025, but you're always looking at ways to, make the players more accountable to one another and develop that leadership. So that's something. And then, really trying to look at it, okay, why did we not perform well in the fourth quarter of games last season? We had 8 games last year that we did not score a single point in the fourth quarter. 8 games where we in the fourth quarter didn't score a point, and in pretty much all 8 of those games, we went into the fourth quarter, we're in a dogfight and have a chance to finish. And for whatever reason, we didn't do a great job of finishing and performing well in the fourth quarter. So looking at how do we, and we've typically been a good fourth quarter team in my time here. So really looking at it, okay, how do we be better in the fourth quarter? All the things. It's more football related, but certainly off the field. And then you're always trying to grow. Moving spring practice up. We're finishing a couple weeks earlier this year, so that will allow me in the last part of April to be able to, get out and, go visit some other programs and talk to other coaches, which I do all the time, but I love being able to go out and see how other people do things and visit with other coaches and trade ideas. So I'm going to be able to get out some at the end of this month and go visit some other programs and do that throughout May too, and be a better version of myself as we go into 2026 than what I was in 2025.
Coach, you mentioned it in that last answer, but I'd like you to expound on it a little bit, and that is that leadership and maturity aspect of the players themselves, because that was something you told us about right after the season ended, that maybe you knew you had plenty of talent on the team, but that maybe there was going to be a bit of a leadership void. I'd like to know, and I think fans would too, just how you can specifically address that. It's not always things you can teach, but can you coax it out of guys, or do you remind players of what you believe their roles need to be? How do you get more of that from your guys?
Yeah, I think it's one, the being very intentional about the people you bring into your program, Jay, and that's what we did with the portal specifically. I mean, we brought in a lot of older guys that had played a lot of football that had those, leadership qualities that have an edge about themselves that I could see coming in and being very much like, Nick Gargiulo was for us in 2023 or Demetrius Knight was for us in 2024. Those type of personalities that have that kind of character. And then I think, certainly you talk about leadership. I think every person's style is different. I mean, Demetrius Knight was a unbelievable leader. He was very vocal. He spoke on Friday nights before games, and I think we all looked forward to that. I was at Oklahoma with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is one of the greatest leaders I've ever been around. Jalen really never hardly said anything. He just had a mindset and a work ethic that just resonated with people that made him a great leader. But I think with the players on this year's team, we voted on, we may do it differently this year, I don't know, but in previous years we've always voted on permanent captains. So who's the captain, the permanent captains of the football team? We always voted on that at the end of the season. And there's a lot of guys that are back on this year's team that got at least 2 votes to be a permanent captain. I mean, I think it's like 25 guys that when last year's team voted, 25 guys that got multiple votes that are back on this year's team. So I sat down with all those guys in January and just said, look, fellas, here's, you had at least 2 teammates that thought you were one of the top 4 leaders on our team last season, and you're back. So understand, 1, how your teammates view you. 2, that's a responsibility, and we need you to be that guy. And some of y'all may say, well, that's not really my personality. I don't really see myself in that way. Well, I really don't give a hoot. You're in that role right now, and we're going to go as you guys go, and there needs to be great accountability. And I've seen that. I mean, I love that in the last, I'll say 3 weeks, we've had 3 different instances where I've had older guys, leaders, whatever you want to call it, on this year's team come to me about an issue that they saw on the team, whether it be an individual on the team or something else that was going on in the locker room, that, they wanted my permission to be able to handle it a certain way and hold those guys accountable on their own. And that's what you love, because that didn't happen really enough last year, if at all. And I see it happening already now. It's April 1st, but this happened in March, happening already, and I love that.
Shane Beamer with 49-year-old head coach Shane Beamer of the South Carolina Gamecocks hanging out with us on the post-game show. Coach, just interested in this. Whenever you hire someone, there's always that moment where you go, that's my guy. For me, for Elijah Campbell, when I saw his long hair and sandals, I knew that was my guy. But at what point when because I know it's such an in-depth process, you have so many candidates, at what point did it click into you to say Kendall Briles is my guy to be the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, great question. Probably just, I would say, honestly, Terry, probably our initial conversation. And I preface that with saying, before Kendall and I even talked on the phone, I had researched a lot of people. and had talked to a lot of coaches about a lot of different offensive coordinators, had watched tape of, multiple offenses of offensive coordinators I was intrigued by, and Kendall was already always somebody that I was intrigued by. And I talked to people other than Kendall, conversations that I had with guys that were potential offensive coordinator candidates. But the first time I ever talked with Kendall on the phone, I don't know, there was just something about it, very similar to when I talked to, Clayton White back in 2020 or Luke Day back in 2020. You just kind of, the way the conversation flows, the way you're able to connect one-on-one, the things he's saying, the kind of person he is, I would say very early, because I had done a lot of research on him before we talked on the phone, and it was all positive, but I didn't know Kendall at all. I'd never met him in my life before he took this job. And when we talked on the phone, it was just there was a connection, and I liked his philosophy from an offensive standpoint. And then he came here and visited, and that really, solidified things with me. So I would say very, very early. It wasn't like we talked and then I went out and just continued interviewing people for 2 more weeks. Once he and I talked on the phone, it got wrapped up pretty quickly.
Coach, a couple quick things for you to close it out. Neff Giwa is signed and will be with you coming up in May, I believe. You talked in your presser yesterday about getting him in, about Justin Okoronkwo. I'm curious, not so much about Neff, who I think you talked a lot about yesterday, but in a more general sense, this is now 2 guys you've brought in through an international means. Do you feel like that might be a direction that you want to turn to more frequently? Are you seeing a better influx of talent, maybe because more kids in Europe, primarily at least, are becoming interested in American football? Kind of take us through that, because we all know you can recruit. I'm just curious as to if Shane Beamer wants to take his recruiting talents across the pond a little bit more.
I think we'll do whatever we got to do to get great players here. And, I look around Carolina. I mean, what Tony's doing with men's soccer, there's a lot of Europeans. Kaylin and our women's golf team, there's, great players from Europe that she has on her team. So we'll go wherever there's great players. And now, are we going to all of a sudden divide up recruiting areas and every coach has a piece of Europe? No, I don't think we're to that point yet. But
call Brad Underwood, man. It's working for Brad.
Yeah, exactly. But, who knows? One, South Carolina's attractive to a lot of people, and now that we have Neff and J.O. here, there's other people. I mean, J.O. was, very impactful in Neff wanting to come here. And now that Neff is here, he's going to be impactful along with J.O. and on other Europeans wanting to come here. And, we talked about the group of guys in Europe that come to the States every summer and every spring and basically just do a tour of colleges here in the States. We'll have those guys that'll be here in the summertime, and literally they come to our camp for at least one day every summer, and there's a lot of really, really talented players in that group. So certainly you get a chance to evaluate guys that way. We have a connection with them now that we have 2 guys in our program from Europe, and that's going to open up the door for others. And if they're the kind of guy that fits what we're about as a program, and we feel like they're good enough to help us win championships, and yeah, absolutely, I'm all for increasing that too of guys that are coming from Europe.
When you need to hire assistants, I would love to see it if you put on the on the application process. Your territory will be Virginia, Tennessee, France, Italy. How many more guys you get to?
No question. Well, I will say this: I think the NCAA rule, I think it's getting ready to change. Where right now there's only 10 coaches plus me that are allowed to go out on the road recruiting, and it's trending in the direction where you're going to be able to have you're going to have 16 coaches that can go out on the road recruiting, which that allows you some creativity. So I do know your love of Premier League soccer, and you're very familiar with everything in Europe. So I think you'd be a perfect candidate to be, you're the media consultant / European recruiter, and go see football players, but also go see all your soccer team every weekend too, and kind of kill 2 birds with one stone.
You got my number. Now, that's all I'm going to say.
I'll say this.
You got my my number.
I'll say this: if you need someone to concentrate on Amsterdam, I'm your guy.
For some reason, that does not shock me, Terry. So
All right, before we get you out of here, Pro-Am down on Hilton Head in a couple of weeks. How is the Shane Beamer golf game? I know it's practice time now, so you're probably not out on the links too much, but how excited are you for another Pro-Am in a couple of weeks?
I am. I always enjoy going down there. I always enjoy seeing so many Gamecocks that are down on Hilton Head for the tournament. I always enjoy playing with a couple pros and being able to just pick their brains on the process of what they do. So it's always a lot of fun. The game is certainly inconsistent right now. Spring practice is not real conducive to playing a lot of golf, and so not playing a lot, but certainly have played a little bit and really look forward to being down there next week. I'm playing. I think Jeremiah Noddy, I think he's going to join me. So it should be a fun group of at least 2 Gamecocks, and we'll see who else is in that group. But really appreciative of Coca-Cola for inviting us to come down there and be part of the Pro-Am, and Steve Wilmot does such an amazing job with that tournament.
Yeah.
I know it's a destination for those pros, and it's certainly a destination for me each year with the Pro-Am.
Yeah, Steve Wilmot is the man. That guy, what he has done to keep that tournament where it is and make it even better is remarkable. Coach, happy birthday once again. Always appreciate your time, sir. Best to the family and everybody, and continued success during the spring. We'll holler at you soon.
Happy birthday, Coach. We appreciate your time. We know you're busy. Thank you.
No, you got it. Thank you, guys, and awesome hearing you, Jay. Keep it up, my man.
Thank you, bud. Thanks, man.
All right,
appreciate
buddy.
you.
Thanks.
There's Coach,
All right. Yep.
Shane Beamer.